Good morning. Thank you so much. So I'm Michelle Carter. I'm Interim Head of Transport at the Knowledge Transfer Network. Again, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you all today to the launch of the SBRI rail competition, first of a kind. Before we get down to the nitty-gritty, I've just got to do the boring housekeeping stuff, and that's, you probably found where the refreshments are located already, so that's where you need to head to during the break, and if in doubt, just follow me, because that's probably where I'll be. And also the toilets downstairs at the, just where you went to register and just around the corner, as well as and then there's a cloakroom down there as well if you need one. There are no fire alarms planned today, so if the alarm does go, we need to head down the stairs and to the main entrance, and there will be somebody to assist us in the next steps. So today, obviously, we're launching the competition. It's quite a broad agenda today, and we've got a mixture of talks from, obviously, up first, we've got Innovate UK to talk through the competition, and then various organisations who have sort of assets to offer, and then we've got some pictures as well from various companies. But it gives me absolute great pleasure to introduce the Rail Minister. This is Andrew Jones, and to officially launch the competition this morning. So welcome. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Michelle, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, I'm delighted to join you to launch this third round of the first-of-a-kind competition. We have a great record of innovation in this sector. From George Stephenson's rocket to the creation of HS2, UK railways have always been a cradle for innovation. For almost as long as there have been trains on tracks, we've had competitions playing a vital role in inspiring and driving forward brilliant ideas that have benefited passengers, the rail industry, and through that, the country as a whole. Back in 1829, and I know there'll be some people who are passionate about rail history because there always are. Back in 1829, one of those very first contests, which was the Rainhill Trials, sought to find the best locomotive to run on the world's first intercity connection. That's between Manchester and Liverpool. 5 engines raced along 1 mile of track, accompanied by a band. They were watched by thousands, and those thousands were placing bets on who would be the eventual winner. Well, I can't promise all of that, but we know that the outcome was the rocket was the victorious, and it went on to transform this industry and this country forever. Well, 190 years later, the first-of-a-kind competition run by my department and Innovate UK is also playing a major role in developing the rail technology of the future. So I can't promise the fame and adulation of the rocket, but I think this is an opportunity to dramatically shape the rail travel in this country over the coming decades. Now, I have to say, we fully expect the rail industry to be investing in technology to meet its future needs, recognising that customer needs are evolving and technology changing very rapidly. But this is a government that recognises it also has a role to play in supporting innovation. And that includes aiding the development of ideas that will enable our railways to meet the challenges of the modern age. For instance, by finding strategies that will allow us to minimise the environmental impact of rail travel, working out ways to cut costs and boost capacity, and in my view, most importantly, using technology to improve the experience of customers by making journeys more reliable and punctual. We've already made £20 million available, which is currently funding 40 rail innovation projects, with another 10 projects set to launch over the next few days. And this next round of the first-of-a-kind programme continues our commitment towards supporting the development of technology that will allow this country's rail industry to flourish today and into the future. So since its launch in 2017, the competition has had some real successes in turbocharging the transition of ideas from the drawing board to the real world. And as somebody who spent about 25 years or so in the world of product creation and marketing before Parliament. That transition from concept to commercial reality is not an easy one. Many things falter, but this programme has shown some success in helping bridge that challenging gap. And we are seeing examples of how customers are benefiting. For example, we've seen Transreport's new app, which is currently being trialled by 4 rail operators. It enables passengers with disabilities to request help quickly and easily during their journey without having to book in advance. And I know that there are other exciting plans in the pipeline that could appear on our rail network very soon. So this is a competition, a programme which is already proving its value. And I'm delighted, therefore, to launch round 3 today. Well, that was unexpected. Anyway, there's £5.5 million in round 3. And it's on offer to help turn the best and the brightest ideas into reality. This time the competition will focus on developing innovations that will ensure improvements in 3 crucial areas: resilience, freight, and the environment. I'll talk a little bit about each one in turn. First, we're looking for technology that will enhance the resilience of both our rail infrastructure and our train operations. Now, you don't need me to tell you about the importance of punctual and reliable services. They are at the core offer to the travelling public. But we also know that things do not always go according to plan. It could be because of extreme weather. It could be, we saw the beast from the east last year, that had impact on all transport networks. And we have incidents of vandalism or timetabling and planning issues. So this competition seeks to develop the products that will allow us to minimize the disruption or prevent it altogether. That's something that is absolutely vital, not only for the benefits of passengers who can predict their journeys better, but also for the future success of our freight rail industry, which powers our economy. The freight sector has demonstrated its ability to adapt and thrive in the face of changing trends, such as the switch away from coal. But harnessing technology and innovation will enable it to achieve far more. And this competition offers the opportunity to explore new, imaginative ways in which we can facilitate rail freight's future success. But this round of First of a Kind will not only focus on making life better for passengers and freight operators, it seeks innovations that will help create a more harmonious coexistence between the railways and the communities that surround them. Rail is already one of the cleanest and greenest modes of transport, but of course it can be, on occasions, very noisy. And while a busy, thriving rail network is absolutely critical to our national economy, people who live nearby shouldn't be unreasonably disturbed. So through this competition, we are looking to consider how innovation can minimize noise and improve the natural environment as well, by exploring ways of using technology to further preserve and support biodiversity on our railways, whilst also ensuring we provide safe and reliable journeys. In this, as in each of the areas I've outlined today, we're looking for bold ideas, brilliant thinking, and great imagination. And I have every confidence that this industry and all the others that supply it will deliver. Because the fact that there are so many of you here today from different backgrounds, from innovators in technologies to rail industry experts, is a real testimony to the fact that there is a determination across this sector to embrace new ways of thinking and new ways of doing. And it's my hope that some of the proposals that will come forward during this First of a Kind will have as great an impact on our country's rail industry as some of the great innovations of the past. But to achieve that, we need the help of everybody. We are entirely open for business, entirely open for new ideas, but the new ideas will come from you, from others around the sector, your creativity, your vision. So I look forward to seeing these best ideas turned into economic reality. It is only by working together and capturing these new ideas that we will build a railway system which will deliver even better work for customers, for the environment, and for the entire country. So thank you for coming. Thank you for your interest in this programme. I view it as one of the more exciting areas in a really exciting portfolio. I'm sorry I can't stay to listen to the conversations, and I know you're going to hear from Innovate UK next, but we're going to have another exciting day in Parliament. And I'm going to get through without saying the B word, but we are going back to consider that next stage. And hopefully, we have been having a few people saying the same things again and again and again. But hopefully, we'll be having a little bit less of that as we approach the deadlines. But we're going to get a statement from the Prime Minister, I think, a little bit later on, and that's what I've got to go back and listen to. So have a great day. I think the fact that you're bringing together different cultures, different backgrounds, different ways of thinking is always that sort of mixture that creates the sparks of ideas, and that's fun. So have a great day, and good luck with this programme. Thank you very much indeed.
So just to quickly really say that those of you that are not familiar with the Knowledge Transfer Network, I've just got a couple of slides. I'm not going to go into too much depth, but if you are new to KTN and us, essentially what we do in a nutshell is connect people to drive innovation, and we help companies find expertise, find markets, and find finance. It's all about innovation. We want to help businesses grow, and we want to help them innovate. And that's essentially what stimulates economic growth for the UK. And essentially how it works, it's about attending events like today. We've got experts within KTN, we cover broad sectors, and that's what enables us to bring disparate communities together. So we cover health and agriculture, food, space, and of course the transport team. So you can get help crossing different sectors. So that's a USP really. It's our ability to bring you disparate communities together. And so we can help you make those introductions and collaborations. So this is the transport team as it currently stands. So George is here and he's at the back. He's responsible for connecting autonomous vehicles. And Ian Stock's here as well. He's sitting at the back as well. We'll cover some rail and marine. And Rob Furlan will be present at the Manchester briefing event. So that's a little bit on KTN. And essentially what it means is if you find us with a KTN lanyard, please come and talk to us. If there's anything that we can help you with, we're more than willing to help. So right on to the competition itself then. So I'd just like to invite Rhianne Montgomery, Neale Ryan and Steve Sopp if they would like to come up to the podium, and I'll hand over to you to give us the nitty-gritty of the competition.
Thanks, Michelle. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome you all here today. I can't believe what a fantastic turnout we've got. This is our 5th competition now that we've run for Department for Transport since 2017. We've currently got about 50 projects live. So we're hoping to add a few more to our successful portfolio before the end of March 2020. We've got a few slides to go through. Please bear with us. We have to go through a lot of the competition process with you to make sure you've got that information. My staff and my colleague Neale and Steve will be on hand at the end of each presentation to answer any questions. So if you could hold questions to the end, that would be great. And I will now pass you over to Neale. Thank you.
Good morning. Right, so I'm Neale Ryan. I work in the transport team. I feel like a bit of an imposter here this morning because I work normally with road vehicles, so cars, lorries, buses and trucks. But I'm here to talk about the Innovate UK sort of corporate picture. Before I do start and jump into that, a quick show of hands. How many people in the room have been involved in an Innovate UK project previously? It's always dangerous to assume that it's everybody, so there's quite a few. Okay, so I'm going to talk through our new corporate slides, which I had the pleasure of reading for the first time on the train in this morning. So nothing can go wrong. But in terms of Innovate UK, hopefully you know who we are. We're the UK's innovation agency. So we exist to support business-led innovation right across the country. We do that primarily through funding. That's probably what you most associate with us. But that isn't just what we do. So through our colleagues at the KTN, through the Catapults, through our work on connecting companies to investors, we also support you more broadly than just providing the financial backing that you need to get your innovations to market. So we work right across the country, right across the economy, supporting a whole range of sectors, including through programs like this that are particularly targeted on a particular set of companies and a particular set of opportunities. So we've been doing it for a while now, I think kind of sort of 10 years in our current legal form. We've over that time invested something like £2.5 billion of both our money and our government partners' money in a whole range of projects. Clearly our interest is in supporting economic growth, boosting productivity, and we have to obviously measure that through a range of indicators in terms of our return for the economy. So these are some of the average returns and some of the overall ticket numbers that you see from the interventions that we've made across a whole range of sectors. So we think these numbers show that we're having an impact in what we're doing. Like the Minister just mentioned, we do have a whole range of specific examples now in rail, in aerospace, in road transport, of technologies that are now actually in the market and being deployed and used by real people and sold by companies to generate income for themselves. So this slide really amplifies the message around kind of who we are and what we're trying to do. So we're at the heart of delivering the government's industrial strategy and boosting the amount of money that the UK invests as a major economy in R&D with a target of 2.4% of GDP, which brings us more into line with our international competitors than perhaps we have done historically. So all of the things that we do at Innovate UK is around supporting and boosting innovation to translate that into economic growth. As I say, we work right across the country, right across the economy, supporting companies from startup phase, spin-outs from universities, right through to medium-sized companies that are looking to scale, but also the large companies as well, and enabling those companies to work together in a way that it probably wouldn't be possible for a small company to work with a large company. And that's one of the many benefits of the collaborative projects that we fund in particular. So we also enable you to work with the research base as well. So I think there's a number of universities represented in the room as well. Obviously, there's a lot of expertise in the research base in terms of rail innovation as well. This particular funding competition isn't part of the industrial strategy per se, but obviously everything that we now do at Innovate UK and across government is aligned to the industrial strategy, which if you haven't done so already, I commend you to read it. So there are 5 underlying foundations for what drives the strategy, and again, that's right across government. Obviously, where Innovate UK comes in, where this sort of funding mechanism comes in, is around supporting the ideas pillar, so supporting innovation right across the economy to get solutions and products and services to market, obviously particularly in the rail instance in this case. But again, what we do at Innovate UK cuts right across these 5 foundations. So we think that our role is pivotal in helping the government deliver on the industrial strategy. Again, some of the broader context for how the strategy is delivered in terms of innovation funding, you may have seen from some of our other competitions, and particularly the new challenge funds, there's 4 grand challenges that all of our activity now aligns to. And the rail competitions sit within the clean growth and future of mobility strands of activity. So that's kind of where we sit, where this competition sits in the bigger picture in terms of what government is trying to do and how it's trying to focus its investment to support the economy going forward. So we've got a couple of slides left. The Catapult centres. Now, I noticed from the attendee list, we've got a couple of people from the Transport Systems Catapult and from the Satellite Applications Catapult. Can I just embarrass you by you waving your hands? Yeah, okay, so the Catapult network, as hopefully many of you will know, is an established network of physical centres and physical capabilities located around the country, which Innovate UK has been investing in since I think about 2010. So these are facilities and expertise and people that you can go and speak to, collaborate with in terms of delivering these projects. Do please take the time to speak to our colleagues from Transport Systems and SATAPs that are here in the room today. But there are obviously other Catapult centres, but perhaps not so aligned to this particular competition. And then finally, and Michelle's already talked to this, so the KTN, obviously here in the room and organising this session, but more broadly than that, are the key people to speak to if you're looking to find partners for this competition, and they can help you connect with other companies that are also looking to partner and take their applications forward. So that's it from me. That's a quick canter through what Innovate UK does. I could speak for longer. I think Rhianne was a bit kind when she says we've got a lot of slides to go through. I think we've got an awful lot of slides to get through. So I'll hand back to Rhianne to carry on.
Thank you, Neale. I should also add as well that the Innovate UK rail team is made up of two of us. So you've got half here today. Sadly, my colleague Kelvin couldn't be with us today, but there are two of us, and we'll give you our contact details. So the aim of today's briefing, we're going to run through the competition scope, give you a bit of background about how this competition has come about. There is an opportunity for you to ask any questions, and we hope that the magic in today will be in the networking opportunities that are here. So please do make the most of your time here, have a look through the attendee list, and try and work out who best for you to meet with. So as the Rail Minister mentioned earlier, there are 4 themes to this competition. Operational resilience, infrastructure resilience, freight and noise and environment. And this is a fully funded competition by our colleagues at the Department for Transport. So I'm going to embarrass them for a second. And if our sponsors could put their hands in the air, please. And it's just a thank you very much from us for another great competition, hopefully. So, the outline of this. It's up to £5.5 million. Anyone is eligible to apply. So whilst it might be called a small business research initiative, the small in that SBRI is very misleading. It is open to everyone. We particularly encourage applicants from outside of rail to apply. And it's up to between 250,000 and 350,000 of total project costs, and these must include VAT. Projects must end by March 2020, so that gives you 9 months in total to complete your project, and you must carry out the work in the UK. Whilst the relationship with this competition is between Innovate UK and the lead partner, in order to maximise your chances of success, we do insist that you have several partners involved. A potential integration partner, a railway asset owner, an experienced rail organisation, and a potential customer. And the last 3 bullet points on there may be a single entity. So, in the likes of a train operator, a network rail, HS2, etc., they could all tick those 3 boxes. You'll ideally include an innovative startup, and we would like to see a train operating company, a rolling stock manufacturer, or an infrastructure owner. And again, this is to maximise your likelihood of commercial exploitation. So, first of a kind. It's probably easier to say what it's not about, really, which is research and development and unproven or new technology. And we also don't want to see technology that's currently in use commercially on the railway network. The key is in the title there. It's first of a kind. So what we will fund, or what we're looking for, is high TRL technology, so ideally 7 onwards. First deployment on the rail network. We do expect you to provide a demonstration at the end of your project, and this will be in your contract, and it's absolutely crucial that we are able to witness this technology, potential customers can see it, and you must then collect feedback on your demonstration. Okay, so I'm going to try and get through these. I'm conscious of time here fairly speedily. As Neale did say, we have got quite a few to get through. So we want you to demonstrate your technology and prove that it works in a railway environment. So again, first of a kind, particularly for technology in other industries that has been proven and field tested. That's exactly the sort of things we're after. Your demonstration must be highly interactive. We must be able to, play with it, see it, touch it, and interact with it. So we'll fund integration and direct user testing. Your solution must be field tested. So again, high TRL. You must gather evidence about the challenges that you faced during this demonstration. And you must demonstrate to the railway stakeholders and their customers the commercial benefits. So you should focus your demonstration within a railway station, rolling stock, on the infrastructure, or in an environment close to the railway. And you'll notice in very teeny text there, we have that we would consider applications that are highly representative of a live railway environment. And that's because we acknowledge the challenges of trying to get onto live railway infrastructure, particularly the physical infrastructure side itself can be challenging. So if you're not able to get those permissions, please come and talk to us, and we may be able to consider other options. But what you should be aiming for is a live railway. That's the goal, tick in the box. So I think we've covered most of this, but your demonstration and your technology must be pre-commercial. This isn't grant funding. You're entering into a contractual relationship with Innovate UK and Department for Transport. You should address one of the 4 Cs, which for those of you that don't know are costs, capacity, carbon and customers. And these are set out by the railway industry as their challenges. So I'm not going to read all of these bullet points because we've made the scope fairly broad to try and encourage as many innovations into this competition as we can. So the first theme is infrastructure resilience, which, as the Railway Minister said, is all about keeping the railway network open for longer. When we had the beast from the east last year, which really affected service. So it's anything that adds resilience to our infrastructure as it stands. And these are some bullet points. It's not an exhaustive list whatsoever. We've got some more as well. But these are issues that the railway industry has highlighted as being important to them. So we've discussed these with Network Rail and the rest of the industry. As I said, it's not exhaustive. So if you have something that's outside of that list, then please, again, do discuss with us, discuss with the KTN, and we'll see if it fits. Okay, so operational resilience. So the infrastructure is all about the physical tracks, keeping the network itself open. Operational resilience is mainly focused on the train operator side. We're looking at timetabling, we're looking at vehicles, things like improving the availability of passenger toilets on vehicles. I don't know how many of you have had a train cancelled because there's no toilets working on that service. It's incredibly frustrating and something that could so easily be fixed. So again, a really, really broad theme. Not an exhaustive list. Please do contact us if you feel that you have a solution which isn't clearly defined in this list. Frieght. This is really exciting for us because in our Innovate UK competitions, we haven't specifically targeted the freight market yet. So this is one that we hope will bring another community into our competitions. Again, not an exhaustive list. And there are several themes within this that maybe overlap into noise and environment. So we've got noise impact of freight trains. Where that is the case, I would suggest that you pick which theme your application aligns with most strongly and go with that theme. So we are aware that there's certain crossovers. But in this, we're looking at next generation logistics, automated modal interchanges, So this could be a really, really exciting one. You've got a huge list there. Passenger luggage solutions. So what about if I was travelling, and I know Go Ahead have done something similar, if I was travelling and my luggage met me at the airport? How fantastic would that be? I didn't have to take my luggage with me. So they're the sort of things that we'd like to see as part of the Frieght theme. And then noise and environment. So we'd like to try and be a fairly considerate industry. And I think we'll all acknowledge in this room that we're not the best at it. We do make a lot of noise, particularly during engineering works. And we have a lot of people that don't particularly like us on Saturday nights. So if there's anything we can do here to make the rail industry sit better alongside its neighbours, then we'd very, very much welcome those innovations. The background to the scope themes has come from consultation with industry, so these are real challenges that industry has told us are a priority for them. For those of you not familiar with the Rail Technical Strategy Capability Delivery Plan, you should be. There's the front, one of the pictures from it there. Please have a look at it. It outlines all the priorities from the industry, and it's where most of our scope has come from. Again, Network Rail challenges. These are published on the Network Rail challenges. There's a huge list. I think there was 40-something at last count. So have a look at that. And if your technology aligns with a challenge, then absolutely perfect. Make sure you tell Network Rail. Okay. What we will not fund, and again, I think I've covered most of this. So we're looking for technology that's going to be ready for market within a year. It must be high TRL. It must not have already been exploited on the railway. You must have the right partners involved at the very beginning, so customer, railway partner. You must deliver a demonstrator, and you must offer the chance to give feedback. The important dates for the competition. I think we can skip the London one because you're all here today. There's another briefing in Manchester on Thursday if anyone fancies coming along for the same experience again. Cardiff then, you could have the briefing 3 times. The registration will close a week before the competition closes. So please make sure you've registered on our website and got your login details. The competition will close on the 24th of April. With a view to having the project start on the 1st of July. So please bear that in mind. There's no room for negotiation here on the timescales whatsoever. So please make sure you can deliver within that 9-month period. So I'm just going to give you a really quick run through of First of a Kind 1 and 2, just to give you some kind of idea of what you're up against in terms of competition and how it went. So the previous 2 competitions were both 3.5 million. This one is much bigger, it's 5.5 million. And it's slightly shorter again, up to 9 months. Can I just have a quick show of hands of who's involved in either a First of a Kind 1 or a First of a Kind 2 project? So, for organisations that are looking to bid into this competition, they are your people to talk to. They know all about the process, so please badger them. Our First of a Kind 2 competition was incredibly successful. We probably did far too good a job of promoting it. We had 59 applications and we funded 10, in comparison to 20 applications and 10 projects funded in the first round. And I don't believe it's any coincidence whatsoever that that's when I joined the team, was for the second round. If you want to see details of the successful applicants, this side pack will be sent out afterwards, or they're all available online. Frustrating things that we saw that made applications ineligible were an incomplete application form. Please remember to put your name on there. If you can't manage that bit, then you're potentially not going to get the 350,000. The budget. We've been very explicit in the budget. We're not going to give you £1 million. Likewise, please don't ask for anything less than £250,000. The budget is there for a reason. VAT must be included. And again, with your collaborators, make sure you've got the right people on board at the very beginning. Don't go converting your application form. You'll have to download it into Word. don't do it in anything other than Word. It causes disastrous problems, and I'd hate to see anyone ruled ineligible just due to formatting issues. So, top tips, and as Michelle has said, the KTN are there to help you. If you haven't paid, providing you haven't paid a bid writer to write your application, they can help you and review your application for you. And we do have specialists here. Ian's around somewhere. Thank you, Ian. Ian's our rail specialist and will be delighted to help you, I'm sure. But yeah, top tips. Make sure that what you're proposing aligns with the scope. Make it clear that your project is within scope, and more importantly, please tell us which theme you're answering. Don't make our assessors guess where your technology fits. Tell us why it's innovative, and make sure you've got a really clear commercial route to market, because that's the whole point of this competition, is being able to exploit the technology on the rail industry. So, competition information is all available online, and the fact that you're here suggests that you found it, so that's great. If you have any questions on scope, please contact support at innovateuk.ukri.org, or there's our phone number there. So, any questions on the scope? One second, we'll just get a microphone over to you.
Ralph Goldney from FoaK Consulting. You just used the acronym TRL, which I didn't recognise. Could you just explain?
So that's technology readiness levels, and there was a European definition of those technology readiness levels. And it's all about the very starting point, which is your concept, your idea, right through to 9, which is your commercialisation and your exploitation of the technology. So there should be plenty of definitions available online.
Marcus Mayers, 2 questions. You said it's a 9-month competition,
Yeah.
but you also said that you need field trials and field feedback. Is the feedback expected to occur within that 9-month window? That's the first question. The second one is, when it comes to freight, is carbon emissions included within the freight section of the competition?
So the first part of your question, yes, we do expect the feedback and the trials to take place within that 9-month period. And regarding the carbon emissions, so we've recently run a competition on decarbonisation of the railway. So I'll take that one away, and I will confirm answers back via email. I just need to check some of the details. Thank you.
Roy Freeland, 2 quickies, if I may. I presume that because this is a commercial order, the undertakings and difficulty regulations that would apply to a grant do not apply to this.
Correct, Roy.
Super, thank you. Secondly, there are some apparent conflicts between the slides you've put up and what is currently on the website.
Okay.
Will the website be changed to your version?
What are the conflicts, Roy?
There is a statement about you can work alone or in collaboration, and this morning you're saying it must be in collaboration.
So technically under the SBRI, our contract is just with the lead organisation. However, we are asking the applicants to provide things such as letters of support to show the industry is committed to this project and there is a need for this project. So apologies if that wasn't clear. That's something we'll have a look at. Thank you, Roy.
Thank you. And then some of the bullets under the specific themes don't include some of the things you put up.
Okay, we'll have a look at that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello. We have a question from JJ, who's on the webcast. Does this funding support BIM modelling as demonstration?
So, we're targeting high TRL technology. I would suggest that that's unlikely to be within scope, but please contact the customer service helpline and we can look into that in further detail. We can look at the specifics.
Thank you.
Sorry, it's another question slightly into the gentleman over there as well. I took part in the last one of these, and when I went to this event in London, it was all Innovate kind of UK led as such, and there was lots of guidance and all the rest of it. I found that the guidance generally contradicted the actual competition, and then even when I then downloaded the competition and started filling it in, the questions in the competition didn't even relate to the guidance questions in the Innovate UK place. So I'm just wondering, are you going to on this one sort of match those up so that it's kind of it follows?
So they should be identical. There are some differences in terms of the questions the applicants are asked and then the questions that the assessors have marked you on.
Yeah,
So
shouldn't they be the same? Because you've got like 9 things that you have to put in your application according to the innovations guidance, and then you open up the actual application and the questions don't match. You can't even just kind of answer 9 straight questions. Whereas when I did something in the local energy systems, at least I had 9 questions I needed to answer and the guidance for answering them.
So the differences there could be potentially the questions that the assessors are marking you on. But
Yeah, they're totally different to the questions that Innovate UK are asking.
yeah, so that's because the assessors will take their marks from quite a few of the questions. They're not taking them just from a single question. We'll have a look. Thank you.
So I read the competition guidelines earlier. It says 50% R&D funding.
Yeah.
Obviously looking at sort of TRL level 7+, is it more sort of D than R?
Yes. Yes. So the R&D sort of stuff is going to come with integrating onto the railway. If your technology is high TRL already, we expect that to be the area that you're going to need to undertake R and mainly D on.
My name's Dave Marcel. I'm an MIET. Proud that our last president's a railway man. So, question about BIM again. Coming back to work done at the IET with ex-CPNI people, could BIM extensions into other domains, not purely restricted to security, be in scope?
So, scope specifics, I'm afraid we're probably going to have to take away to look at in further detail.
We can talk to it in the break, but it just depends on the detail, really.
Yeah.
It's difficult to answer without knowing the specifics.
Speaking as a security professional, in that context, very important, and we even touched on it in this morning about how security can be a downgrade.
Okay, we'll have a chat amongst ourselves and then we'll come back to you in the break if that's okay. Okay, we've got time for maybe one or two more.
Cheers. Thanks very much for the presentation. Matt Slade from CPC Systems. Just 2 really quick, simple questions. Firstly, you mentioned railway integrator in the UK. Could be quite a broad definition. What did you mean by that? Secondly, you said the work needs to take part in the UK. Could our infrastructure partner be international? I may have missed that clarification.
Okay, so in terms of the railway integrator, we've deliberately left it quite broad for the applicants to tell us how the partners they're proposing fits that. In essence, it's someone that can integrate technology onto the railway and has experience of doing so. So it's very much down for you to make the case that who you're proposing fits that. And providing the work is carried out in the UK, absolutely your partners can be based wherever. It's a subcontract relationship, so it's up to you to determine who those partners are. We can't, because it's pre-procurement, we can't rule out anyone. Okay, one more.
You said it was 100% funded. When I've done these things before, there's been a requirement for 30% funding, and there's also been a 15% retention only paid at the end. Could you just confirm what you mean by 100% funding?
Okay, 100% funded in that we are not asking you to provide any match funding like typical R&D projects. So it's a contract between us and yourselves. It's pre-commercial. It's not grant funding, and there will still be the requirement that we hold on to, that we retain the 15%. At the end, and that's so you provide your end of project report, and that's just the admin work at the end.
I'll touch on some of this in the SBRI slides next,
yes.
So hopefully that will answer your question as well.
So this is a different mechanism to what you're talking about there in terms of our normal collaborative R&D grants. It's quite different.
Perfect. Thank you.
We can ask Rhianne more questions afterwards, after the process of the applications. So we'll continue. Thank you.
Okay. I'm now going to hand you over to Steve.
Hello and good morning. My name's Steve Sopp, and I also, like Neale and Rhianne, sit within the transport team in Innovate UK. Part of my role is sort of to promote and support SBRI, this procurement scheme that Innovate UK champions across government. We run it in lots of different sectors. It's proven, it's well used. It's used by the likes of MOD, health. It's in lots of different sectors. There are some quite novel and innovative ideas that come out of SBRI. It's also designed to support SMEs. It's got SMEs in mind in the way the system, the framework is constructed, but it's not just open to SMEs, it's open to any organisation that could potentially commercialise their innovation at the end of this. I'm going to give you a short overview, a couple of slides on SBRI, the kind of general framework for SBRI, touch on the eligibility criteria, and then hand over to Rhianne to cover some more specifics about this particular competition. So SBRI is based on a pre-commercial procurement framework that's set out in a number of EU papers, Commission communications. It's well established, well used. It's pre-commercial, 100% funded. It's a procurement contract, pre-commercial procurement. As I mentioned, it's a structured process. It really enables the public sector to put out public sector challenges and problems and look to you to offer innovative solutions on how to solve those. So I think we're looking for solutions that aren't readily available on the market. As Rhianne has mentioned, this particular competition is really about the kind of development and integration of high TRL technologies, innovations, and their application on the rail network. So it has clear advantages for the public sector in sort of solving some public sector challenges that the market isn't otherwise addressing. It also offers a great opportunity for small, medium and large businesses. We're effectively paying 100% of your R&D costs to help you get a product to market. There are some IP provisions that are retained by the purchaser, but the bulk of the IPR is yours to go and exploit elsewhere in a separate commercial activity. Key features of SBRI in general, as we mentioned, it's a procurement contract. It's 100% funded for procurement of R&D services. It operates under EU rules, pre-commercial procurement. Please Google, please have a look. There's plenty of information about pre-commercial procurement. The contract is with a prime supplier, and again, that's another important point that Rhianne mentioned. It's a procurement contract with a prime supplier. For this competition, we're looking at collaborations with rail partners, so that would need to be clear in your bid that you have support from the rail industry and that you've got the relevant partners necessary to help deliver your project. IPR rests with the supplier. I'd encourage you, please register and download the tender documents and the contract. So the contract terms, the draft contract terms will be available when you register. They won't change, they're not negotiable. The contract will have a couple of annexes which set out the milestones that we expect you to meet. These are quite general, they're not too detailed. They'll be specific to your application, or they may be specific to your application depending on what you're proposing to do. Usually we would have clauses that relate to progress towards the test or trial. There may be a milestone related to start of test or trial, and there might be a milestone at the end to show that you've closed out and delivered everything that's necessary. So those are the key milestones that would align with the kind of payment regime for this. So there'll be stage payments that are set out in the contract. Please do register, please do have a look at the draft contract and ensure that you're happy with the terms that are in there. As Rhianne has mentioned, any questions, then please contact customer services. The email address will be supplied. I'll touch on the eligibility criteria and then hand over to Rhianne, who can cover that in more detail. So SBRI, Small Business Research Initiative, designed with small businesses in mind, but open to any organisation that can potentially commercialise the product, has the potential to commercialise the product at the end. It's open to companies that aren't currently engaged in the rail sector, so we're open to innovations from outside that can be applied to that sector, and indeed often that's where real innovation happens, bringing in novel ideas from outside. Research organisations may apply, but they must demonstrate a route to market. I think that's a core requirement. So if you're a university or an RTO, please consider how, once you've had your R&D costs to develop your innovative idea, how are you going to commercialise that in a separate commercial activity or procurement exercise. The project work should be carried out in the UK, and you need to consider how you're going to work with the railway asset owner. Do look at the eligibility criteria. These slides will be circulated. Again, I guess there's a little bit of confusion. You must work in partnership with organisations that have a rail expertise, but the contract is with that lead partner. You are responsible for delivery of the R&D. SBRI competition, it's collaborative in that we do need you to have letters of support and a plan for how you will work, test and trial your innovation on the rail network. Open to any organisations of any size. I think that the key criteria are set out here. Rhianne's already touched on the funding available. I think we'll probably pick up in the break the issues around the sort of questions that are posed in the brief and in this and how they fit with the application form, which clearly has 10 discrete questions that you need to answer. And you need to really think about the wider brief when you're answering those questions so that the assessors are clear about what you're proposing to do and how it fits with the core application questions. We can perhaps pick up on some specific queries in the break if you do have them. I'll hand over to Rhianne again to talk you through the application process in a little bit more detail. Thank you.
So all of these details are available online. I'm conscious that I'm between you now and the caffeine, so I'm going to whiz through these. But if there are specific questions around these, there is time at the end for Q&A. So we have, on your application form, you have 14 questions. 4 of those are your name, your contact details. The last one being as well, do you have permission to submit this? So again, as I said, your application, these will be the details that we publish. Whatever contact details you put in here will be the ones that we publish with the project. We also ask you to provide an abstract for publication, which is to let the public know what we're funding, but it's also to potentially entice customers. So you don't want to give too much away, nothing commercially sensitive, but you want to put enough in there so it sounds interesting. Every question from here on now is for internal use only. This one, description of the proposed idea and the technology. This is where you explain for our assessors what you're proposing. Keep it simple. Do not use railway, I'd call them TLAs, which is awful for 3-letter acronyms. Keep them out of there. Just make it really clear. You can submit 2 A4 pages of appendices if you need to for this question, and they can include images and diagrams. The technical project summary. This is where you outline the background to the technology, what the innovation is, and the key deliverables. Current state of the art and intellectual property. So what we want to know is what else is out there, why your product is different, and do you know your market? So make sure you answer all of those questions. Your project plan and your methodology is to give us some confidence, or fairly high level of confidence, that not only have you got the technology to deliver this, but you've also got the project management and capabilities to deliver this as well. We need to see that there's some structure in place, and you can provide a Gantt chart as well, again, up to 2 pages of A4. The technical team and the expertise. So this is you telling us all about the skills you've got in your team and why you think these people are the right people to deliver this project. You should also outline the proportion of time each team member will spend working on the project as well. The finances. Now, this is what trips most people up, so please pay this attention. We're after a summary of costs for the project. They must include VAT, and what we're looking for is fair market value to ensure that what we're purchasing from you is not inflated and we are getting a fair price for the technology. So your cost will be split into direct costs and indirect costs. Your direct costs are basically labour and direct costs that the projects will incur. Your indirect costs are things such as your admin support staff, your office, any overheads, etc. Question 11 is commercial potential. What we're looking for here is a clear route to market and that you've given some consideration on how you will exploit this technology. Again, you'll need to describe the significance of the competitive advantage. So again, what else is out there and why is what you're proposing better and why can't it be copied? This competition is all about getting technology onto the rail industry. So we've asked about the application to the rail industry and the practicality. We need to know that this is a plausible innovation that will end up on the rail network. Question 13 follows on from that, which is the application to the rail industry and the benefits. So please give some consideration to how you're going to quantify those benefits, whether it be cost, time, societal impact. It would be really good if you could show that there would be a marked improvement as a result of your innovation. Finally, question 14 is just a declaration that you have the authority to submit this project. So before you click submit, please make sure you've got the application form and it hasn't been converted into a different format. Appendices are for questions 5 and 8 only, no more than 2 pages of A4. And please complete all of your application. If there's one way to sabotage your application, it's to leave a question completely blank and not get it marked. So if you want to do that, fine, but I'd suggest you don't. So I'm going to hand you over to Neale now, who's going to quickly talk you through our assessment and selection process.
So it's actually me between you and coffee, I think. Okay, so this bit's still pretty important. I think we've got 15 slides or so to go through. So there are some key differences between how you apply for this competition and how you would apply for what I would call a normal Innovate UK competition. So if you have applied via our new IFS system, Innovation Funding Service system recently, these slides will look very different and you know, take some time to kind of digest it and ask us questions either now or offline after today. So in terms of the assessment process, just like a normal Innovate UK competition, we're going to use independent assessors to review and score the bids. They're drawn from a mixture of academic backgrounds and industry backgrounds. Obviously, they won't be conflicted in any way with the applications that they're responsible for assessing. We typically use 5 independent assessors to give us an average score across each of the bids that we receive. And we take the average score forward in terms of using that to recommend projects for funding or not. So in terms of what the assessors look for, I mean, I think you can get some good advice from the KTN in terms of using them as a sense check for your application. You know, I guess if you've read your bid through hundreds of times, you might assume that it reads really well, it's crystal clear, but that may not be the case to a fresh pair of eyes. So do use people like the KTN to help you make the strongest bid possible. But in terms of kind of generic feedback that we get from the assessors that we kind of pass on to potential bidders, make sure your answers are clear and concise, and you know, never assume that what you think is blindingly clear and concise is actually clear and concise. Don't overburden them with information, but do provide the right amount of information. Don't assume that they know everything about your company, your technology, or the history of it. Try and give them, again, the right amount of information to be informed. They will obviously know about the opportunities and challenges in the rail industry, but again, they might not know the specifics of you or your particular company. Make sure you can quantify and justify any claims that you make, and also that your team is able to present a viable opportunity for growth and innovation within your particular project and actually deliver on it. Yeah, so this plays back to the question that we had from the gentleman at the back of the room, that the assessment criteria that the assessors use do not match up to the precise questions that you're asked, and there is a reason for that. But the key thing to stress on this slide is that some questions, or some scoring points rather, are more important than others. So we've targeted our assessors to particularly look at where the numbers are 40 and 20 on this slide. So when you're writing your bid, when you're answering the questions, which are different to the points on here, but when you're answering those questions, make sure, again, with the help of a fresh pair of eyes, that you're answering and providing information around those two points there, particularly the point that scores 40, because obviously it will be possible to lose lots of points if you tackle that element particularly badly. At the end of their assessment scoring process, the assessors will then make a recommendation to Innovate UK as to whether they recommend your project for funding or not. And we go on so you'll have a score for each of the assessors, and then a total average score, and then to overlay that, we have a recommendation for funding as well. And if a majority of the assessors do not recommend your project for funding, then we're not able to take it forward to be successful. Okay, so submitting your application, again, this is very different if you're familiar with our IFS system. SBRI is quite different in that regard. Via the .gov website, you need to register. There is a deadline to register at least 1 week before the competition closes. I would register as soon as you can after this briefing, to be honest. Then that allows you to access the full information and download all the necessary documents. I wouldn't leave it until the last week. Complete the documents, take your time, use all the space provided. Like I say, get a fresh pair of eyes to check that it's as clear as you hope it to be. Then upload the documents, and I'll come on to that in a few minutes. Again, don't leave that to the last minute. For every competition, there is a fixed deadline of noon on the date of the closing of the competition. There are no exceptions made to that. So if you're 1 minute late or 2 minutes late, we won't be able to accept the application. And the competitions team are utterly ruthless in enforcing that timing deadline. The notification, I assume, relates to the notification of the winning projects. So once we've gone through the process, we then have an internal review of all of the scores within Innovate UK. A few days following that meeting, we'll then send notification emails to the successful and unsuccessful applications. And then within 4 weeks, whether you're successful or not, you'll receive some written feedback on your bid. Okay, so yeah, this is a bit more detail on the registration process. So like I say, you've got to register 1 week before or at least 1 week before the competition closes. But like I say, I'd do that as soon as possible. Once you register, you'll then get a username and a password through which you can access the FTP site. You'll also get a unique application number, which is extremely important. You must reference that unique application number on the documents that you upload. Crucially, if you're thinking about submitting more than one application, and many people often do, you'll need to register per unique application. So you can't use the same number for two applications. You need to go through the process to register twice or 3 times to get a unique number. You have to do that through the support team. Okay, so I think you can just about see this. When you go on to the FTP site, there are some standard documents that I can't read on my screen, and you certainly can't read on this big screen. But they're some of the standard information that you'll need. And then on the right-hand side, there's a login section where you'll go in using your username and password. And then that is your individual secure upload site. Like I say, there is some instructions in terms of how you name your documents. So again, use your unique application number at the start of the document name, and then for your appendices, you have to put the word appendix in front of them. Again, the competitions team are ruthless in terms of enforcing the standards of and the consistency of documents that you use. So make sure it's a Word file. Don't try and be clever and do anything flash with it, just have it as a normal Word document, and then appendices must be PDFs. We have all of those rules and regulations to make sure that when we pass it out to the assessors can read the documents, and we can be sure that the assessors can read the documents. Okay, so again, this is a bit more detail about what you'll see when you come to submit and upload your documents. So you'll have to tick a terms and conditions box within the final page, and then upload your documents using the guidance on the screen. Again, at this point, best not to leave it until 2 minutes before the competition closes, because if you have any problems, you won't be able to get hold of the people on the support desk to correct it. So again, upload your documents early as possible, because there will be a bow wave of people, as there always is, trying to get online 2 minutes before the competition closes to upload their documents. Okay, so yeah, notification. So this is, after we've gone through the process and we have selected the successful projects, we'll then notify the lead applicants on the date on the competition timeline. For successful projects, we then do an in-house project cost review and viability checks. We then aim to issue the contracts around 4 weeks after that notification. And again, Rhianne talked about the timelines that we're working to, but the project can't start until you've received and signed and returned the contracts to us. But again, we'll be in touch with you at that point to talk you through that part of the process. So this is, well, again, you can't see this on the big screen, but in terms of the feedback that we get from the assessors, both successful and unsuccessful applicants will be provided with a summary of the comments that come back from the assessors. We do give instructions to the assessors in terms of the quality of their feedback. It's something that we're always trying to do. We know that unhelpful feedback comments from assessors is particularly annoying for unsuccessful applicants, so we are routinely trying to work with our assessors to make sure that you get the most constructive and useful feedback possible. And again, hopefully that will be captured in this document for you. That will be then uploaded to your secure site, I think about 4 weeks after the competition has finished, the notification has been completed. Right, okay, so things to note. I think we've already said all of these, but I guess we're saying them again to reinforce how important they are. So you've got to use all the space on the application form. Don't leave massive amount of white space, because that's not a good use of the opportunity that you have to convince the assessors how good your project is. So any size or type of organisation is eligible. You've got to demonstrate that your route to market, though, is valid. All the contract values quoted must include VAT, which we've said a number of times, and be at a fair market value. And again, the contract terms and conditions are non-negotiable. We're looking to get projects started as quickly as possible. We haven't got time or scope or ability to alter the contracts. We just want to issue them, you accept them, and then away we go with the project delivery. Okay, again, for those of you that are familiar with the normal Innovate UK IFS process and application forms, do take the time to digest how different SBRI is. Either ask us questions now. If we get questions that we can't answer now, then we'll make sure that we provide further briefings out to everybody that's in the room today. Because again, SBRI is quite different from our normal competition processes. And again, after today, take the time to register early, read the information, and then ask further questions of the support desk to get you the best possible information about the process and how it works. I think that's it. It is.
Two questions, or
And there's one at the back. The hand shot up straight away at the back.
So your question's about the IPR provisions that are in this competition, yes. Is that correct? So in general, for SBRI competitions, the principle is that the IPR rests with the contractor. Now, it's usual for the procurer, the contracting authority, to retain some royalty-free license to utilise project-generated IP. Now, I would encourage you, because it's such a complex area and one that you would probably need to get specialist advice on if you have concerns in that respect, we'd encourage you to download the contract, the draft contract that is available on the FTP site that will specify the specifics of this competition and how IPR is addressed, what provisions there are for royalty-free license for the project foreground IP. In general, though, the IPR does rest with the contractor, and the contractor is then free to go and exploit that separately. You are working with a potential customer and developing your idea, and if the customer, the sponsor department, DFT, is interested in sort of procuring this, or one of their agencies is interested in procuring it after the competition, that will be done through a separate procurement exercise. So this is pre-commercial procurement.
Can I ask a question from webcast?
Oh, no.
Bernadette
is bursting to ask a question, Ian. So we're
Sorry, I couldn't see.
No worries. Hi, James Fox from 3 Squared. We entered the last first of a kind competition, but unfortunately didn't get through. The feedback was great, what was sent through 4 weeks ago. We got a mark of about 78%, so I'm just wondering, is there a pass mark to actually get through?
Yeah, do you want to have a go on?
Hi, glad you entered the last one. I'm really sorry you didn't get through. This was because the quality of applications and the number of applications we received was so high. So 78 in itself is a very, very good score. And probably in first of a kind one, you would have got funding from that. But due to the volume of applications we received, that bar was set much higher. So apologies for that. And there's no clear-cut number that will or won't get you funding.
Thank you.
78 is a good score.
Very
so
good.
You were doing something right.
Yes.
Thank you. Last question from Ian.
Okay. Excuse me. Bernadette on the webcast asks about payment if you're successful. Is this on invoice or on audit report, or how does the process work?
So this is quarterly payment. It's on costs incurred and defrayed. So we will only pay costs that you have actually paid out yourselves. And our payment terms are 30 days after you submit a claim with us. And that's all done through your monitoring officer, who will be assigned to you.
Perfect, thank you very much. Because we are a bit behind time, I will be very quick. We have a small task to ask you before the break. If it's possible to take the pens that were kindly provided by the venue and actually write down on your name tags the closest hub station to your house. And ideally, we want you to go into the networking area and find people that share the same hub station with you, or a close one, and basically try to start a conversation with them. It might actually help you have a project idea, collaborate with them, and so on. The papers can be removed from the plastified envelope, so do not worry about that. You can do that all through the day. Railway hub station, pretty much the biggest train station closest to your house. Yes. So ideally, not everyone here is from London. So I don't know, put St Pancras or Reading or Bristol, so on, so on. Perfect. Thank you.
That question came from DFT.
The payment one, you need to be a little bit careful because it's procurement. It's usually just we don't normally do any. We don't expect receipts in for the payments. They're just paid as long as the monitoring officer says the work has been done. It's a bit like building a house. You know, you say.
Give them worst case scenario.
Okay, that's all right. But the payment terms are usually in that contract, which is that we need to develop that.
Yeah, George, how long are we breaking for? Can you just tell them how long we've got?
Oh, it's a microphone.
You just give them a wave, it might just bring them down. So we need to speak to the chap over there.
So
Yeah, so I think he's out of scope. Unless he can prove. So, could you check my laptop over?
We're behind by 5 minutes. You talk too much.
Thank you.
We got through it in
I'm actually amazed you got through it today.
Yes, it was great. I was like, oh, Neale.
Which theme?
only just seen the slides and I stood there
So, if you go into infrastructure,
Great. I was like, oh my god, he really likes it. No, we're 5 minutes.
adding resilience.
I think we'll make a start. So they're already running a bit late, so but that's fine. That's fine. We've got plenty of time this afternoon for some chat. Just for information for later on, if you could get connected. So there's the Wi-Fi details if you need that. There's a little activity coming up where you'll need to get access to online. So make a note of those details if you need them. Also, just to point out, so people have put some hard work into this, is there are some cards down in the networking area. So these are people who have something to offer. So please do go and look at those and read them during the break time. Their contact details should be on there as well so that you can get hold of them. So it would be giving me sort of great pleasure to introduce Mark Gaddes from Network Rail to give the first series of the presentations for this afternoon. Still this morning. Wishing the day away.
Thank you, Michelle. Good morning, everybody, and thanks for the invite. I've got about 10 slides. First one, just to make sure that everybody knows that we run the infrastructure. We're nothing to do with the trains, although we do interface with them. We employ a lot of people, we have a lot of assets, and we spend a lot of your money through the government in maintaining that. But that's getting more and more difficult as we get more and more trains onto the infrastructure, causing more and more damage, less and less time to do it. So things like the first of a kind are really important to us to try and get some new solutions into our infrastructure and help solve some of our problems. So yes, this is what we do. We provide the train paths for the trains to run across our network and maintain that. So we're the equivalent of the Civil Aviation Authority, if you like, guiding the planes around. Most of the information that's been taken and put into the scope of this call comes from our challenge statements, some of which you can see up there. There is a link, but if you just Google Network Rail challenge statements, you'll find them. There's about 50 on our website. Look through those, see what you think you can solve for us and come back to us. And I'm going to ask you to come back to me. I will then go out to all of the various people within Network Rail and find that one in 38,000 that's interested in what you want to do with us. The challenge statements will look like that one on the left-hand side as you're looking at it, and you can then address what you see there. But looking at the specific scope, and I'm going to probably have to look up there because I can't see on the screen in front of me. I've been through the scope and the bullet points in each one of these areas and trying to pick out some ideas that some of our people have looked at. Yes, we're interested in all of these. At the top right-hand corner, 12 out of 12 of this particular area in infrastructure resilience. Of course we are. Particular points, though, are things around climate change. I think the way our climate change person read this, they thought that the government was having a Trump moment and denying that climate change is upon us. But if you read the sentence carefully, I think they're wrong. But yes, it is important to us. Some points there that our individual subject matter experts have sort of said, yeah, I'm quite keen on these particular aspects. So the line on switches and crossings, for instance. But I have somebody behind me that's got an interest in every single bullet point. So more on the infrastructure resilience. When it comes to the robotics, yes, maintaining, inspecting. We're actually going through the process at the moment to try and identify what the priorities are that we want to inspect using robotic, automated systems. Where are the sweet spots? These are some of them, but I can't actually tell you which are the ones we really want to address in the first instance. Picture on the bottom right there, for instance, is maintaining tunnels. We have about 5 million square meters of tunnel surface that is brick, and it's falling apart. How do you maintain that? Sending people in to dark, wet tunnels between 2 o'clock and 5 o'clock in the morning to replace those bricks. And you can't get those bricks anymore, actually. Those particular bricks that form a structure. So how do we replace them quickly enough, and what with? So some fantastic challenges for all sorts of people. On the resilience, yes, more areas there on level crossings, on bridge strikes, bottom left there. It happens almost every day. I think there was something on the East Coast Main Line in the last couple of days where there was the line was closed, all the trains were queued up, somebody had hit a bridge or a parapet. One of the middle pictures there is about our level crossings. One of the challenges we've got is how can we provide level crossings that are accessible to the more disadvantaged people without taking up too much land space? You've got to have a massive, great ramp up to the crossing before you can go over and back. And this is out in the middle of nowhere. How can we get people across those? Level crossings themselves, we've always got issues to look at. There's one there about geotechnics, and my head of geotech with his earthworks hat on is adamant that you need to look at the geotech earthworks strategy that you can download. There's the link there. Make sure you're aware of that before you come through and say, we've got this solution, because he's already working on quite a few things and only wants solutions in particular areas. Operational resilience is, yes, it is important to us. We look at the hot axle boxes as well as the train operators. So we will tell them where they're getting some bearings heating up. How can we do that more efficiently? There is also a line in there about graffiti, which I think is the bracket around trains, but we've got a lot of graffiti problems, as you can imagine. And I think it was within the last 12 months we had a few fatalities. So our issue is people wanting to get onto the infrastructure to get a badge of honour to paint some graffiti on a bridge and then being in danger of being on that track. Electrocution, or as is the case with the last incident, being knocked over by a freight train in the middle of the night. So we do have problems with graffiti as well. We then have to remove it. Freight, not all of the bullet points are specific to Network Rail, but we have got an interest in those shown there. So 14 out of the 24. So we're interested to see what people want to show us. Also in noise and environment. We have as much waste as any construction company, so our rubber pads, our ballast, things like this, we're always looking to solve some of those problems. But please come through me, I will give it to the subject matter expert, and they might come back to you and say, we're already doing it, sorry. These sorts of things. And vegetation management, the last one there. So just give me a paragraph of what your idea is and send it to me via email, and I will do the rest and go through to Network Rail. Very quickly, some of the things we're already doing, we always, and everybody is flying drones all over the place, it's what you do with them that's important. So measuring our infrastructure is important. left-hand side, if somebody can come up now, because we're already involved in a project with a little munchy robot that can go down our drains and say, I'm here, here's the digital twin of your drainage system, and I'm going to clear the blockages and things like that, please come and talk to me. That's a long-range project, but we are involved in it. Mine works under our tracks cause problems. Some of them we can't get at, so the rather gloomy picture top right is one of those where we can't get our blokes into, but we are doing a project on that at the moment. But in some of them we want continuous monitoring. How can we do that? I think I'll just move on to finish. That's what I need from you. Put it down on an email. The email address is down at the bottom there. By all means, come and talk to me over lunch and what have you, but I'll still give you the same response. Put it on an email. It will go to one of probably 30 people who will then give you a response. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Click. Did Philip arrive all right? You made it. Right. So next on the agenda is Philip Pitman from Costain. Unfortunately, had a delay on your train this morning, wasn't it?
Just normal, isn't it? How you doing? Good morning. Can I just ask, does everybody know who Costain is? Can I show your hands if you do? Okay, so it's pretty much everyone. I won't go into too much detail about the who we are and what we do then. But just to give an overview of where we are today and what we're doing today. So we employ 5,000 plus in our workforce. Our turnover last year was 1.6 billion. Of that workforce, we had a focus on our graduate intake last year, where we aimed to intake 50% male-female, and we're working with that at the moment. Our R&D program specifically looks at various different elements across the infrastructure. Currently, we're targeting intelligent infrastructure, tomorrow's transport, and green energy. And across those areas, we have 25 PhD students that are across 15, I believe, universities. So quite a strategic network of our R&D at the moment. In terms of how we operate across the infrastructure for delivery, we operate in water, energy, and transportation, specifically in rail and highways, on transportation, and in energy, nuclear power, oil and gas. Obviously, we've got a significant water market with our works on Thames Tideway at the moment, and recently at A2O. So just to go into a brief bit of detail about those projects, we've got various different R&D projects under the way through Innovate UK and other funding avenues at the moment. Those are through collaborative SME relationships, relationships with universities again, and obviously stakeholders and clients. On our project, we've got a significant strategic approved supply chain. You can be a part of that supply chain if you believe you've got something to offer us. How we deliver innovation on projects, we work with the clients directly, we support their innovation networks, we support I3P, which is the most recent one, out of the back of Crossrail. On Crossrail, we delivered and helped support Innovate 18, which was the program there. We delivered the most innovation throughout the whole project. We've got a significant team of rail assurance and governance specialists across our company. They can help support the products you're developing, and they can help you navigate through to route to market and understand the rail industry readiness levels, which are as significant as the technology readiness levels, if not more so. We've just delivered, and we're still there, the UK's first customer experience hub at London Bridge Station. Feel free to pop in and have a look at the work we've been doing there. That was part of the Accelerating Innovation in Rail 4 programme, which, like I said, is coming to an end shortly. We're also part of some other programmes I'll touch on in a moment. But that is, the purpose of that is to get customer experience, and not just through operations and maintenance, but through the way in which the stations integrate with the social aspects. We've got a technology centre at Bristol, who primarily work towards highways solutions. However, we are crossing over into that rail area. We've got 2 projects underway at the moment, which are funded through Network Rail, looking at level crossing improvements and how we can manage level crossings, as well as how we interface with maintenance operations and the signal that they require to make sure they know when a train is coming. Obviously, one of the key things that I need to touch on is the fact that we've got a significant team across all sectors. So not just will you get information and support from the rail industry, you'll be able to get information from our teams in nuclear, our teams in energy, that can bring areas that are already delivering areas of the digital twin, for example, and remote monitoring, and bring those over and help you support those different ideations in the rail industry. So just to touch on briefly, and I'll try and keep it brief, the different rail areas that we're looking at the moment. So like I said, we've got 2 accelerating innovation and rail calls we're working on. The one is the customer experience one at London Bridge. The outputs of that are ideation roadmaps that demonstrate the key themes and trends, enablers, products, technology and services that will take us from today to the stations of tomorrow, the stations of the future. And those ideations have come from the rail industry, with support from Network Rail, HS2, Crossrail, DFT, and various others from the Tier 1s and SME and lower supply chain as well. We're also working on a robotics call, which is through our UK, utilising robotics for automated inspections, some of the areas that Mark touched on in his presentation we're looking at. There's various different applications, but I'd suggest obviously keeping an open mind as to what infrastructure is out there already. Like you said, everyone points to drones. CCTV can do a lot of the stuff that drones can do if you start looking at the right areas of it. And I've already touched on the Network Rail funded ones. So I'm just going to go through, not in detail, but the areas that First of a Kind have demonstrated that also have synergies in our specific areas of R&D. So I mentioned intelligent infrastructure, and obviously you've got infrastructure resilience and operational resilience in there. I'll just note that I haven't put anything about the environmental and noise area, but that's because my environmental team didn't get back to me in time. So if you do have something in mind, come and speak to me and we can have a look at that. So resilience to systems, one of the key things you'll see from the work that we've done is how every single area of the rail network will interface at some point. Enablers of one area of the system will likely interface with other areas and help support and navigate you through that roadmap to different solutions for the rail network. Built-in sensors and IoT, we've got an IoT project that we're working on at the moment, which is our AF5 project. We've also got significant input into BSI and Petras with their digital twin governance requirements. We're supporting various universities with that. Automated inspections, we touch on that in our other IUK calls. Geotechnical asset management is one of the key ones we're looking at as well. One of the significant areas just to think about there is how you can integrate things as a service. Maybe not just the one product will be the solution, but perhaps a collection of products. And I think that's probably the case for a lot of the different areas. Bridge strike resilience is an area that we were looking at in R&D quite a while ago. The operational resilience element for intelligent infrastructure is obviously looking at data and how that can perform inform maintenance activities. But those data also have synergies into tomorrow's transport and how you get operational resilience into the customer, enhancing their experience, getting through the stations, making sure they've got the right information, they've got the information the guys on the platform have got, as well as the boards behind them, making sure that there's synergy, not synergies, but there's one source of the truth through those people. Dynamic wayfinding is a big area that came up through our work over the last year. HS2 want to see it, Network Rail want to see it, the customer wants to see it. It's areas that can help support people, not just that are perfectly physically enabled, but those that have difficulties as well, whether that be through blindness, deafness. They can integrate with different systems and different hardwares to help them get around the stations and make their experience more socially normal. And to touch on freight, so an area that possibly transfers over into the final slide, which will look at the green side of things, is improving timetabling and scheduling. How can we get automated freight? Obviously, there's automated freight that's been demonstrated in Amsterdam, I believe. Can we bring that to the UK network, and what are the blockers? Autonomous rolling stock. And just going into that sustainable area, you have infrastructure resilience, the adverse environment, and how that interfaces with it. The global warming implications, and obviously that has an interface with the geotechnical element. How the geotechnical land, I won't go into the detail of the geotechnical element, but how the difference in the slope stability operates in terms of what is happening with our weather systems. The operational resilience for staff. So one of the key outputs of our most recent workshop with HS2 and DFT was having a significant understanding of staff rostering and improving that area. So maybe through machine learning, automated and different collections of data, bring those together to make sure that there's an understanding and you've got solidarity in who is attending when and where those people are and how they're interfacing with the station, as well as the rolling stock coming into the stations. And then finally on the freight, flexible interiors, making sure that you can reuse the rolling stock that is on the market already. Rolling stock that may have come off, can we bring that back into the market and make it more resilient, make it flexible so that you can put different areas of logistics into it, making yards electrification compatible. Obviously a significant systems interface, so understanding those systems, we can help you with that with our governance teams, and then repurposing the redundant rolling stock. So if you're looking to engage with us, you can come down to the hub, which is going to be at London Bridge Station for the next 2 weeks. You can get in touch through Twitter and Instagram for that, or you can get in touch with me directly. Tony is going to be supporting the Manchester event. You can get in touch with him. He's our technology development lead, or you can get in touch with Tim Embley, who's our group innovation lead on Costain as well. Any questions at all? Just, sorry.
Okay, thank you, Philip. So next up is Gareth Biggins from Arriva UK Train. Sorry, I was blocking your way to the lectern.
Good afternoon, I'm Gareth Biggins, I'm the Innovation Manager for Arriva's UK Trains division. Just a little bit about Arriva and who we are. We are one of the biggest rail operators, or in fact transport operators in Europe. We're operating in 14 countries. And we're part of the Deutsche Bahn group. We effectively operate all of DB's transport operators outside of Germany, with the exception of DB Cargo. We deliver a range of transport solutions, and we've got about 2.4 billion customer journeys every year across multiple different modes, including bus, rail, metro, and also non-essential emergency transport, non-essential medical transport as well. In the UK, the trains division consists of 5 train operating businesses, cross-country, Grand Central, Northern, Arriva Rail London and Chiltern. And we also have two smaller bits of the business, Arriva Train Care, which carries out maintenance services both for Arriva and non-Arriva operators as well. And Alliance Rail Holdings, which is part of our bidding team for open access operations. We operate about 21% of the UK rail network in terms of passenger journeys. We can provide access to 10,000 rail experts in our employees. We've got 600 train sets and nearly 600 managed stations as well. So we've got a lot of infrastructure that we can provide access to, and we're looking for people who we can work with to demonstrate new solutions at those locations. Our vision is to ultimately become mobility partner of choice, both for our customers in terms of travellers, everyday customers, but also for the tendering authorities as well, whether that's Department for Transport or Transport for London or others. And we're going to deliver that through having the best employees, being preferred by our customers, the strong foundations that we have in safety, technology, data and innovation, and through growth of our business as well. So what are we looking for from this competition? Well, we're looking to partner and to host demonstrators of solutions with partners who are curious and inspired to think beyond today's railway, looking very much towards the future and applying future technology to today's problems. We want partners who are driven to deliver great customer experience because it's what we're passionate about. And we're very keen to work with people who want to do the right things by our employers and our environment and our communities as well. So if you've got a unique solution and you wish to demonstrate it at one of our stations or on one of our trains, then please get in touch with either myself or my two innovation colleagues from Arriva Rail London, which operates London Overground, and Northern, Matt and Wayne. Please get in touch with us at the break and make yourselves known. And we've got a lot of experience about delivering innovation within the railway. At Chiltern, we've delivered clean air zones in partnership with BNP Paribas, JC Deco, and a startup called Air Labs. So actually using air filtration technology to provide clean air spaces at Marylebone Station. In Northern, we've worked with Saturn Visual to provide live train mapping in the satellite lounge at Manchester Piccadilly. So this is providing information in a new way, in a new format to make it possible for customers to make better decisions about when and where they wait in the station to reduce crowding on platforms and to have an overall better experience. And finally, at Arriva Rail London, we've been working with Block Docs, who are in the room today, on one of their demonstrators for FoaK 1, and that's using thermodynamic sensor technology to understand where customers are moving around our stations. So if you'd like to work with us, please make contact early. I think I got contacted 2 days before the submission date last time around, and whilst we're quite an agile part of Arriva, a big corporate organisation like Arriva, it's not very easy to get something approved within 2 days. So please get in touch at least by the 29th of March so that we can assess your solution and decide whether or not we're the right partner for you. But please do get in touch with myself primarily, and you can get my details at the break or through Innovate UK. And I will then identify who in Arriva could be the best partner for you. Tell us about your solution, and most importantly, what our customers and our employees will see and feel and experience. That's the most important thing to us. Tell us why it's new and useful, and tell us what challenge it's going to address as well. Let us know what help you need from Arriva. We'll evaluate and support solutions that we think are desirable and deliverable. So please make it as clear as possible how you meet those criteria. Whilst we're interested in working on solutions that address any of the problems that are stated by Innovate UK, we've got 3 specific challenges that if you've got a solution that addresses one of these, then we really, really do want to speak to you. The first is that in the most recent NRPS survey, so that's the National Rail Passenger Survey, 37% of rail users said that they were, only 37% said that they were satisfied with the usefulness of information about delay. So how could we use data, whether that's data about our trains, data about the service that we're operating at that point in time, how can we use that information to enable customers to avoid the disruption and therefore have a much more satisfying journey? Our stations, many of them are densely populated areas, particularly within the London environment, and we're required by law to make certain public information announcements, but that's quite disruptive to our local environments. So how can we use technology to reduce the impact of those announcements, particularly at night? And likewise, within depot and stabling facilities, our diesel trains, and we're unfortunately one of the largest operators of diesel trains in the UK, they need to run their engines for movement purposes, for maintenance and for cleaning as well. So how could we reduce the noise of those vehicles whilst they're undertaking those activity in those closed environments? Because the impact of those on our neighbours and communities is quite significant. So how could you help us to address those? And that's it. We're Arriva. If you want to come and speak to myself, Matt or Wayne at lunch, please do. And thank you.
Do you want your notes? Yeah. There you go. Great, thank you, Gareth. So next up is David Furse, and he's from oh, we've got 2.
Yes.
Oh,
it's
okay.
me as well.
Okay, Daniel and Dave from TfL.
Good afternoon, everyone. I was saying that my name is Dave Furse. I'm a Senior Commercial Manager in Transport for London, and my colleague Daniel, who is a Continuous Improvement Manager. We're here today to talk about London Underground's Deep Tube upgrade programme. So, quick show of hands, who's heard of the Deep Tube upgrade programme? Probably about half, so we're doing a better job. I started this 2 years ago, and no one had heard about it. So, what are we? We're a £15 billion infrastructure upgrade covering the last 4 lines of London Underground. So that's the Piccadilly, Central Line, Bakerloo and Waterloo and City. At the moment we're focusing on the Piccadilly, but that accounts for 2 million journeys a day, 34% of the network, and obviously is going to make us a great deal of improvement for the passengers of London. What we're aiming to do is harness world-class technology to deliver frequent, affordable and reliable tube journeys. As I was saying, there's a focus on the Piccadilly line. We're hoping to enable 54,000 journeys per hour at peak times. So it represents a 60% uplift on what we're doing at the moment. It should be a train every 1 minute and 49 seconds. If any of you use the Piccadilly line at the moment, you'll know that's not quite the case. There's 145 kilometres of track and signalling to upgrade. We've got 2 depots to upgrade and some sidings. And at the moment, the turnout cost is £4.6 billion for the Piccadilly line only. Having a look at the actual numbers, we all know that TfL are under some severe financial pressures at the moment, but we do have assigned in the next 5-year business plan £3.3 billion. And just as a show of commitment, we've recently awarded a contract to Siemens for the 94 new rolling stock trains, which is worth £1.5 billion. There's a similar budget for infrastructure, which is particular interest for me. That's my category lead as a commercial manager. And we're also looking to spend about £1 billion on signalling and train control when we get to tender that requirement. I'll hand over to my colleague Daniel.
Thank you, David. My name is Daniel Rahami. I'm head of continuous improvement on the Deep Tube Upgrade Programme, which includes a lot of things, but mainly focusing on innovation. I did present at the last first of a kind, so I'm hoping that half of you didn't have your hands up, weren't here, but we didn't have as long. So I'm just going to talk you through and stuff. So since we last came here in the last 6 months, we've had a considerable development within the programme. So as David pointed out, the awards of the train contract is on one side, but also we've been working in-house to really focus on innovation and embed innovation within the programme. So people think, every single person thinks differently, from an engineer to an admin member of staff. So we want to approach things differently. We have to, because of some of the financial constraints. We're under more pressure than we ever have been in TfL. So some of the themes that we're looking at here, just to focus on in terms of this first of its kind, is in terms of infrastructure resilience. So we're looking at adding resilience to systems that directly impact on infrastructure. That's something that we want to focus on. So if you have a desire to work with us on that, that'd be great. Onboard and line-side energy, obviously some of the storage technologies we want to adapt in our infrastructure with our new trains and upgrade of our signalling. And robotics, we want to look at that, such as automating inspection and maintenance activities. We have an army of people maintaining our infrastructure and our rolling stock, and this is something that we need to improve and to become more efficient at. And then the other theme that really we look to work with people on is noise and environment. So if you've ever been on the Circle line going out to Stratford, you know we need some help. It's impossible to talk. I've fully put my hands up there. And then in terms of our environment in and around stations and depots, well, as David pointed out, we've got to upgrade 2 depots to house our new rolling stock. So that's something that we would be focusing on. We've also developed some partnerships with some institutions, some educational institutions. So we're not exclusive, but currently we're working with Greenwich University in really developing our research and development and starting at ground level. So we've got some good ideas there. So if there's any universities out here, which I know there are, please come and talk to us. But we've also identified some themes and some challenges. We did a series of workshops in which it was mandatory for everybody on the program to go on. And some of the idea of these workshops was to get people enthused about innovation, but not only that, to identify our challenges. Now, we've done that much in the way that Network Rail have. In fact, we're quite inspired by Network Rail. Thank you very much. Here are some of the in-flight programs, projects that we're working on. So we need to cool our stations. So we've got to cool the platforms. So we're developing a new cooling panel. With the increase in trains per hour, obviously the increase in heat. So we need to deal with that. We've got train-mounted laser gauging is something we're looking into, we're developing. We've got to build 60 new signaling equipment rooms. That's the third one along on the top level. Why can't we either mechanize the build, or why don't we 3D print them? It's something that we're looking into possibly. And then the optimization of some of our assets. So we've got huge amounts of assets all over London, and one of them being our substations. So our substations are these great big blocks built in Victorian times, huge buildings, the size of 4 tennis courts, you know. And over time, the equipment shrunk down, and we need to use these assets either to create revenue or for development, commercially, or in fact use them to increase capacity. So open up some of our stations. We're putting these beautiful brand new trains down the Piccadilly line, and at the moment a number of stations, as you may have noticed, you need to get out in the lift. So, you know, we're increasing our number and our capacity. Can we get them in and out of the station? So that's another thing we're looking at. And then mechanization, you know, we've got to install a huge amount of cable routes, and so therefore, you know, is there an opportunity to mechanize that? You know, at the moment, if you go down to some of our stations in the middle of the night, we too have restrictions on the amount of time that we're able to work in engineering hours. And you go down there and it's like lemmings. There are hundreds of people, you know, pulling and pushing cables. You know, can we mechanize that? Can we improve that? How do we get it down there for a start? You know, sometimes we're pulling it down escalators. You know, we've got to move forward on this. So there's another one we're looking at. Track visualization tool. The unique thing about London Underground is a deep tube environment. That's us, the Deep Tube upgrade program. So there are challenges around using drones, but can we use some technology which is existing, like Google technology, to identify assets and give an opportunity to do desktop surveys before we go down to site and survey and then identify any issues. So yeah, there are a number of projects that we're working on, existing projects, that we'd love for people to get involved in if you have interest. Come and talk to us about anything you may need. Obviously, half of you need to find out what on earth it's about, but we can do that, there's no problem. And yeah, the door is open. Come and speak to us. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. So next up, we've got Mark Stileman from Ordnance Survey. Thank you.
Good morning, good afternoon. Pleasure to be here. One of the joys of working at Ordnance Survey is that people, I tend to say where I come from, people's eyes light up and say, oh, great maps. That's about 5% of our business. We are very much a data organisation. So Ordnance Survey really, our lifeblood, our raison d'etre is to maintain the geospatial data fabric of the country. So it is a lot of data. It's around 20,000 changes we make every day. We're busy investing kind of new generations of data. Really my message today is a really simple and straightforward one. We would love you to be using our data within the competitions within the projects that are successful. Pre-commercial terms, absolutely free. Fill your boots and use our data. We'd love to see it used. So we operate as a business, but we're 100% government owned. We're very much driven by public good, and part of that enabling our data through innovation. So let's just look at that. We've got an awful lot of data available, crossing both kind of visual mapping, but also thinking beyond mapping into descriptions of the built-in natural environment. So thinking here features with persistent identifiers, classification, attribution. You've got topological networks of road and water, for instance. We've got height and digital terrain models. We've got addressing in there. Addressing is a slight caveat in terms of availability because there is third-party data in there. The terms are limited to 3-month availability, pending. If you need it more, then that will be a discussion. But the great bulk of our data we can make available for the lifetime of the project. Certainly the kind of 9-month on here, absolutely no problem at all. So on here, that's just kind of reiterating the point. There's an awful lot of data available. It all looks quite mappy on here because it's graphic stuff, but again, emphasize it's foremost about data, nationally consistent. And I guess with the whole aspect of rail, when you're looking at rail and infrastructure, its context, its environment, the hinterland to that railway, thinking about bridges, you're thinking about environment, thinking about noise. Everything happens somewhere, it all plays out in space and time. Geospatial data, a great way to integrate different data sets together and make sense of them. So, showing this, we've got effectively a bunch of open data sets, and those are just freely available now. The newest just showing on there, the Zoom stack. These are vector tiles. Very, very fast, single download file, enables you to do zooming and panning very, very effectively. The open data is just there for everybody to fill their boots and to do use data, use the information without any restriction at all. What I'm really focusing on now is the kind of premium data, the high resolution data, and how you can have access to that as well. So the mechanism we use for this is something we call the data exploration license, and it is a really simple piece of paper to sign online. It's a click-through process. We're using this really as a way to what we'd love to do is to make this a kind of standard feature through all Innovate UK kind of managed competitions. So we're trying this out now. So please, just so we can measure the uptake of this and kind of manage the process. If you just through the kind of form you do the form you use to get the data, actually just quote this competition, that would be tremendously helpful. That's all in terms of kind of download of data. Our direction of travel is absolutely towards APIs and be able to kind of consume the data more directly. That is absolutely where we're going. We've got mapping APIs now. We've got kind of address matching APIs, same caveat there around the kind of the 3-month, but that is negotiable, but obviously with us to the third-party data suppliers as well. The process right now is a bit clunky, and there's a very good reason for that. Our investment, our attention is very much on a whole new generation of online services, opening up our detailed data in partnership with the Geospatial Commission, which is now effectively the voice of government for geospatial data. It's a tremendously exciting development. There will be, over the course of the next year or so, some really kind of groundbreaking and exciting changes in terms of access of data. So right now, it's not the most easy process, but it's reasonably straightforward. Effectively, sign up for the free trial online, then that will get you onto kind of trial terms. We want to get you onto the data exploration license terms. So at that point, send me an email so we can identify you, and I will work with my colleagues to get you onto these DEL terms. And that is it. So please, love to talk to you, love to help you get data. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much for that. So next on the agenda is Maggie Simpson from the Rail Frieght group. But unfortunately, she couldn't make it today, so I'm not going to do her presentation. I'm just going to flick through the slides for your perusal. And we will forward the slides on to you so that you can have a copy of those. And there is her contact details, should you wish to get in contact with Maggie. I'll leave that just a moment so that you can you write that down, should that be of interest. Okay. So next on the agenda is Pablo Garcia from HS2, just to give a quick update on progress on that side of things.
Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Pablo Garcia. I'm Innovation Manager at HS2. We'll be very briefly, just 5-6 slides. I will start by saying, well, does anyone not know HS2? Probably everyone, right? Good. So I will skip all introductions and general things. The main thing I want to say, so we are slightly different to other people. So we are not like Arriva or Network. We don't own the assets yet. So what we can do is providing soft support in terms of aligning those solutions that you would be proposing to our specs and our requirements in the future. So you have an easier route to market in the future. And that's what we have done in round 2. So we are about to start 2 projects in round 2 where we will be working with SMEs in customer experience for stations. We're providing our 3D models and things like that. So it's a bit different that you will still need an asset owner to demonstrate your product. So 2 main things I will go through today, mostly infrastructure resilience and noise. In terms of infrastructure resilience, there are 3 main areas that at the moment we are looking at, and our strategy is built up on those three main areas. The first one is dynamic monitoring. So we will be using our rolling stock and works engineering vehicles to basically measure well, track geometry and rail head status and scanning and all things like that. The main challenge here is speed. In this country, we have not measured that at 360 per hour, so that has some technical issues. Second thing is an attending measurement system. So again, the main strategy here is trying to avoid, when possible, people working ahead or in confined spaces. So the idea is having, when possible, all automated. It could be, again, it could be drones, but it could be just you know, vegetation management, aerial pictures. Do we need to send people on site to do the tree survey, so we can just do it automatically? Things like obstacles in the track, all that. If we can automate that, that's what we want. How is up to you to propose it. The third one is asset condition monitoring. So this is about infrastructure based. So the sensors, the overhead that we will just place in there, so we can have a predict and prevent approach. And I'm going to expand a bit on this. So the idea in HS2 is not doing a find and fix, or not even periodic maintenance, but it's being smarter than that. I mean, hopefully 2026 will be smarter than that. And we can just know when something is about to fail and preventing that to happen. Again, you can read there, you know, we are identifying what we need, but it's up to the suppliers to tell us how. Those procurement schemes will be coming in the next 2 years, by the way. In terms of noise, that's another main challenge we are having at the moment. So a couple of things. On the left side, you have noise at source challenges. So we are trying to just understand how can we mitigate noise at source. This means understanding the different noise sources, how much comes from the pantograph, how much comes from the rolling noise. This is not easy. High-speed pantograph is actually more important than rolling noise. So how can we just know the different sources and how they weight in the overall noise? So things like, rolling noise on slab track. And one thing that is at the bottom of the light blue box, you have works engineering mitigation. So that's a bit different. It's not about operational noise. It's about the noise that we are generating now on our construction sites. We can maybe facilitate that demonstrations through our tier 1 contractors. So I see Philip was around here today, and we have our main civil contractors working now. So we do have those construction sites where we are just basically generating a lot of noise. We can demonstrate that. About materials, control methods, again, there are a lot that we can explore, so any products will be happy to hear from you. And those are some questions about noise. If you have solutions that could answer some of those questions, we'll be happy to talk to you. So similarly to Mark, I will be your contact point, or David Rogers is a colleague from innovation team as well. And we can just internally talk to the acoustics team. And same for the infrastructure resilience. The other two where we could be also interested potentially is about operations resilience and environment. This is a bit vague at the moment. I actually didn't receive slides for the environment team, but it's something similar to the works engineering in construction sites, where we are also generating a lot of CO2 emissions, and we can test sensors and processes to basically mitigate that. So again, get in touch. I didn't have my email there, but if you just come speak to us over lunch, happy to give you mine. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Pablo. So next up, we've got Steve Quantick from the Transport Systems Catapult.
Hi everybody, I'd like to talk to you about Transport Systems Catapult and how we may be able to help you as part of this process today as well. So firstly, a little bit about Transport Systems Catapult. We are one of 10 catapults in the network, it was discussed earlier. Our role is to try and help grow UKI in terms of economy and growth, and we specialise in transport systems. Other catapults do others. I think Gemma will go and talk later about the satellite aspects. We cover all modes of transport, and we look to support both SMEs and larger organisations to try and get innovation into the marketplace, which we can then use in the UK, and or to export overseas as well. I'm the rail lead. So I look after the rail sector, and I'll just talk you through now some of the things we do. So Transport Systems Catapult per se, we have 3 core areas of focus. The first is around open data and the use of open data, and our CEO is part of the chairs the Joint Rail Data Action Plan in conjunction with the TOPS and RDG. And other industry bodies like the RSSB and the like. We're keen on using that data to help drive innovations in the rail space. The second area is around connected and autonomous transport. So we're interested in how we can take some of the learnings used over the last few years around autonomous transport in cars, use that in other modes such as trains, drones, ships, etc., etc. And we're interested in the service layer of new mobility services, how you can utilise that, how passengers or freight can have the new services which can come and be used across the different modes of network. We also work with academia, so we linked into working closely with 30 different intelligent mobility universities, and we work all the way through to SMEs, and we have 400 plus SMEs aligned to us and registered with us at Transport Systems. One of the key objectives is to help unblock some of the, for Catapult, is some of the market barriers, and in transport in general, I think there's quotes out there that says 2% of venture capitalist spend in London is related to transport, where we pay 14p in a pound for transport. So it is a bit of a block in getting into the market, and that's what we're here to do. And part of my role is to work with some of the larger organisations to access some of the innovations to some of the smaller organisations. And I do that via a series of different meetings. A number of the people who presented today we're linked into, and trying to work in a programmatic way to meet their challenges to some of the innovation base we work with. And we'd like to continue to support the First of a Kind initiative, which is a great way of enabling innovations to move up the scale, have a demonstrator which can allow visible evidence and helps people get items into market. From a First of a Kind perspective, we regularly bid into these types of competitions and other competitions. We have a bid team who can help support SMEs who are looking to access these types of competitions as part of the Innovate UK family. We recommend you go to speak to KTN as well, and obviously Innovate UK. But if organisations are looking for some help in terms of supporting a particular application, we can help with a number of items. And those 4 items are as follows, really. We can help from the funding point of view, and that involves some of the bid writing. We've got a high success rate in the last First of a Kind. We put in 4 bids and we got 50% success rate, which is generally higher. Part of that is because our bid team will work with the SME, who we would expect to be the lead. We are there to help support organisations get funding. And we will help with a triage process to really make sure and help them understand the process of bidding, help them understand, to really make sure and validate that there is a proposal that meets the brief. And if there is, we can then look to see how we can support you. And how can we support you? There's a couple of other ways we can support you quite easily. One of them is by linking, and that's try to link you up with different organisations who can help you with your specific needs. So if you're an organisation who's got a product, you want to get it to place B, and you need certain skills, we can potentially link you to some of the people with those skills. We can actually talk to some of the larger organisations we work with to see how they would help support your bid. And then finally, we can also help from a doing. So there's a list of skills at the bottom there we quite often find that SMEs have a really good skill, capability or product, but to actually integrate it into a demonstrator over a period of time or integrate into a larger organisation, they sometimes need a bit of help around those skill sets we can actually provide. Bearing in mind that we are part government funded, we're neutral, we're not-for-profit organisation. It's quite a unique proposition for somebody to have access to those skills with somebody without an agenda. Furthermore, if you've actually won and you've got a bid, then we quite often help with the dissemination aspects in terms of some of the aspects which was talked about in terms of being able to promote the product afterwards. And we've got an example where we just one of the recent Innovate UK organisations bids, one of the SMEs went through, provided a demonstrator, and we've helped that SME get into market after the use of that demonstrator. Okay, so how can we help you specifically on here? Like I mentioned, we're more focused around data, CAT, Connected Autonomous, and new mobility services. So that means we're not really involved in heavy engineering solutions. So that's just a background. We can help, and if in fact you are an organisation with that, we may be able to help to link you and point you to the right organisations to help you find the right people for collaboration and the like, but we probably won't be able to help you directly. So when we click through the 4 specific areas, infrastructure resilience, you'll see that a number of these here are data related and will make use of some of the skills on the first section, as it were. And we can help with some of our links with some of the infrastructure providers here in the UK. Operational resilience. This is a real key one and really helps us, links in from both a data and a new mobility solutions point of view. A number of these items, on the last First of a Kind, the dynamic wayfinding, we helped an organisation get through and win related to people with visual impairment and get an award which is currently about to kick off. But there's a list of others which we believe are more in our sweet spot. Frieght is underserved, I think, as Rhianne mentioned earlier. We have a freight team, we have a logistics team. our connections into the pure freight market aren't as strong as they are as some of the passenger services, but we do have connections. We're part of the rail freight group. We know Maggie, and we can certainly help on those. We're specifically interested in ones in around first and last mile as well, because that really helps from a new mobility service point of view, and then similar from a noise and environment perspective. So if you're out there and you'd like some help, you'd just like some guidance, some independent guidance on if we can help you as part and parcel of your bid, please feel free to reach out to me. My colleague Anthony's in the crowd, who's one of the bid leads who helps support any bids which we're part of. But also, even if first of kind isn't part and parcel of what you believe you're an SME and you qualify out based upon this particular set of criteria, if you think that the areas of data, new mobility services, or CAT in general, and connected autonomous transport, are areas which as an SME you'd like some help, please reach out to us and we can see how we can help and provide support as part of our activities outside of Innovate UK items. Okay, thank you very much.
Right, okay, so we are now going to move on to the picture session. And just a sort of note really that just make sure that you make the most of the break and this afternoon to go and talk to those people, individuals that have just presented. You will get a copy of the slides after the event, so you can have all that information at hand. So if your name is on this list here, would you mind coming up here? This will help with the smooth running of the pitch session, because it is a quick fire session. So if you could help by coming up to the front, that'd be really great. And can I call Andy Boogley from Eversholt Rail as well, please, to come to the front?